Lieutenant Commander Alex Chen had faced down hostile fleets, navigated asteroid fields, and survived diplomatic disasters, but nothing prepared him for Zorianth. The Calrathian ambassador strode into the human embassy's reception hall like she owned the galaxy. Her orange skin seemed to glow under the station's lights, and her blonde hair, an unusual trait among her people, cascaded over her shoulders in perfect waves. She wore the formal diplomatic robes of her world, but somehow made them look like evening wear. "So, you're the legendary human negotiator," she said, her violet eyes scanning him with obvious amusement. "I expected someone taller." Alex straightened to his full height. "Ambassador Zorianth, welcome to Unity Station. I'm shorter than your reputation suggests," she interrupted, circling him slowly. "Do all humans exaggerate so dramatically, or just you?" His diplomatic smile didn't waver. "We prefer to think of it as confident self-presentation." "Fascinating." She leaned closer, and he caught a hint of something sweet. Calrathian spice blooms he recognized. "And do you confidently present yourself in all situations, Commander? Or do some make you nervous?" Alex felt his colleagues watching from across the room. He'd handled warlords and corporate raiders without flinching. He wouldn't let one beautiful, infuriating alien get under his skin. "I don't get nervous, Ambassador. Merely cautious." "Cautious," she smiled, showing the slight points of her canines. "How very diplomatic. Tell me, Commander Chen, is everything about you so measured, so careful?" Her fingers brushed his sleeve. "So controlled?" He met her gaze steadily. "Discipline is important in my line of work." "Discipline," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "How wonderfully rigid." "I wonder," she paused at the doorway, looking back over her shoulder, "what it would take to make such a disciplined man lose control. It seems like an interesting challenge." As she disappeared into the corridor, his assistant approached with a datapad. "Sir, the Calrathian delegation will be here for 6 weeks." 6 weeks. Alex watched her retreating figure and realized this negotiation was going to be far more complicated than he had anticipated. The next morning, Alex arrived at the conference room to find Zorianth already there reviewing holographic trade documents. She had abandoned her formal robes for something more casual, a fitted outfit that highlighted her athletic frame. "You're early," he said. "And you're predictable." She didn't look up from the data. "Punctual, prepared, probably had the same breakfast you eat every morning. Let me guess, protein synthesis and synthetic coffee?" "How did you?" she asked your staff. "They were very forthcoming about your habits. Apparently, you're quite the creature of routine, Commander." Alex set down his own datapad with deliberate care. Routine breeds efficiency. Routine breeds boredom. She waved her hand, dismissing the holographs, "which is why I've proposed a change to our negotiation schedule." "What kind of change?" Zorianth stood, moving around the table with that fluid grace her species was known for. "These talks will take weeks. We can sit in sterile conference rooms following your precious routine, or—" She stopped directly in front of him. "We can conduct our discussions in more interesting locations. The observation deck? The botanical gardens? The recreation levels?" "That's highly irregular." "That's the point." Her smile was pure challenge. "Unless you're afraid that changing your routine might disrupt your famous control?" "I should refuse. Protocol suggests neutral, professional environments." But something in her expression, that mixture of challenge and genuine curiosity, made him reconsider. "Fine, but we maintain professional boundaries." "Of course, Commander." Her tone was innocent, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Completely professional." Their first relocated session took place in the botanical gardens, where earth plants grew alongside specimens from dozens of worlds. Zorianth walked among the blooms, occasionally reaching out to touch a leaf or petal. "Your world has such vibrant colors," she said softly. "Calrath is beautiful, but more subdued. Blues and silvers mostly. Is that why you're so drawn to bright things? Alex asked, then caught himself. That was too personal, not professional at all. She turned and her smile had shifted from teasing to something warmer. Perhaps. Or perhaps I simply appreciate rare beauty when I encounter it. The way she looked at him made his pulse quicken. Ambassador, the Terran orchid, she said, pointing to a nearby flower, symbolizes refined beauty in human culture, doesn't it? Among other things. And what other things? She stepped closer. Strength, the ability to thrive in unexpected places. Zariath reached up, and for a moment he thought she might touch his face, but instead she plucked a small white bloom from a nearby plant. Like humans themselves, I suppose. Adapting, surviving, flourishing. She tucked the flower into his jacket pocket. There, now you're less rigidly professional. Alex looked down at the flower, then back at her. This is still a negotiation, Ambassador. Everything's a negotiation, Commander. The question is, what are we really negotiating for? Before he could answer, she had moved on to the next section of the gardens, leaving him to wonder the same thing. By the second week, their working relationship had developed a rhythm, albeit an unconventional one. Zariath continued to tease, and Alex continued to maintain his composure, though it was getting increasingly difficult. They were in his office late one evening reviewing mineral rights proposals when she suddenly stood and stretched. I can't look at another chart. Tell me something interesting instead. Interesting how? About you. She perched on the edge of his desk, entirely too close. The real you, not Commander Chen, the diplomat machine. There isn't much to tell. Lies. She leaned forward. Everyone has stories. What made you leave Earth? What made you choose this life? Alex sat back, studying her. Why do you care? Because you're more interesting than you pretend to be. Her voice softened. I've watched you negotiate. You're brilliant, actually. You see patterns others miss. You find compromises that seem impossible. But you hide behind all that formality like it's armor. Maybe it is. Against what? The teasing edge had vanished from her tone. Against connection? Against feeling something real? The question hit closer to home than he wanted to admit. My job requires objectivity. Your job requires humanity, she countered. Otherwise, you're just a computer with good instincts. She slid off the desk but didn't move away. When did you let yourself just be? I don't have that luxury. Everyone has that luxury. You just choose not to take it. Zariath reached out, her fingers barely touching his hand where it rested on the desk. What scares you more, losing control or discovering what happens when you do? Alex looked at their almost touching hands. Her orange skin seemed to glow in the dim office light. You assume I'm scared? I know you are, she said. I see it in how carefully you measure every word, every gesture around me. You turned his hand over, tracing a line across his palm. You're terrified that if you let your guard down for every moment, I'll see something you're trying to hide. And what would that be? That you're lonely. Her voice was barely a whisper. That all this control, all this discipline, it's because you're afraid of wanting something you think you can't have. The observation was so accurate it stole my breath. Zariath, tell me I'm wrong, she stepped closer, her other hand coming to rest on his chest. Tell me you don't feel this between us. Tell me every moment we spend together doesn't make you want to forget about protocol and professionalism and just... He stood abruptly, breaking the contact. This isn't appropriate. Since when do you care about appropriate? She didn't retreat. You've broken a dozen minor protocols these past 2 weeks. Meeting in gardens instead of conference rooms, sharing meals, talking about things that have nothing to do with trade agreements. Her smile was gentle now, not teasing. You're already crossing lines, Alex. You're just afraid to cross the last one. You're my diplomatic counterpart. There are rules, made by people who never felt what we feel. She reached up, her fingers hovering near his face. May I? He should say no, should step back, should maintain the boundaries that kept his world ordered and controlled. Instead, he nodded. Her fingers touched his cheek, feather light. Your skin is softer than I expected.
warmer. "Zarianth, I'm not asking for promises," she said quietly. "I'm just asking for honesty. Do you feel this, or am I imagining it?" Alex closed his eyes briefly, then opened them to meet her gaze. "You're not imagining it." Her smile could have lit the station. Finally, a crack in the armor. "This doesn't change anything. We still have jobs to do." "It changes everything," she corrected. "But yes, we still have jobs to do, so let's do them. Just without lying to each other anymore about what's happening here." As she left his office that night, Alex sat in the darkness for a long time, her touch still warming his skin, her words echoing in his mind. Somewhere along the way, this had stopped being just a negotiation.
The third week brought a crisis. Pirates attacking a joint human-Calrathian mining operation on the system's outer rim. Alex worked through the night, coordinating responses, barely noticing when Zarananth appeared with food and coffee. "You need to rest," she said, setting a cup beside his hand. "After we resolve this..." Alex, the use of his first name made him look up. Her expression was serious, concerned. "You've been at this for 16 hours. Take 20 minutes. The situation won't collapse without you. People are depending on..." She gently removed the datapad from his hands. "And they'll continue depending on you tomorrow when you're coherent. Come on." Before he could protest, she pulled him to his feet and led him to the office's small balcony overlooking the station's central plaza. The artificial sky above showed a starfield, not real, but beautiful nonetheless. "Sit," she commanded, and surprisingly, he did. Zarananth settled beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. For several minutes, they sat in silence. "On Calrath," she finally said, "we have a saying. The warrior who never rests wins no battles, for he collapses before the war begins." Poetic. "It's true, though." She turned to face him. "You carry so much, Alex. Everyone's expectations, everyone's needs. When do you let someone carry you?" "That's not how this works." "It's exactly how it works, if you let it." Her hand found his in the darkness. "I know what it's like, being the one everyone depends on. My family sent me off-world because I'm the adaptable one, the one who can handle anything. Sometimes I want to scream that I'm just as uncertain as everyone else." He looked at their intertwined fingers, orange and tan, hers slightly larger than his. "You hide it well." "So do you." She squeezed his hand. "Maybe that's why this works. We see through each other's masks." "Zarananth, what are we doing?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I know I've never met anyone who made me want to be brave enough to figure it out." Alex turned to face her fully. In the dim light, her features were softer, more vulnerable than he'd ever seen them. "I'm not good at this, at connections, at letting people in." I noticed. Her smile was tender. "But you're trying. That's what matters. When this negotiation ends, you'll go back to Calrath." "Probably. Is that why you're holding back? Because it might end? Or it's exactly why we shouldn't hold back." Her free hand touched his face again, that same gentle gesture from before. "Maybe we only get these few weeks. Maybe this is all we'll ever have. Doesn't that make it more precious, not less?" "Zarananth, kiss me, Alex." It wasn't a command or a tease this time. It was simply honest. "Just be with me. Here. Now." He hesitated for only a heartbeat before closing the distance between them. Her lips were softer than he imagined, and she tasted like the spice blooms she favored. The kiss started gentle, tentative, exploratory, but deepened as she pressed closer, her hands sliding into his hair. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, she rested her forehead against his. "There," she whispered. "Was that so terrifying?" "Yes," he admitted, then added, "And no." She laughed softly. "Honest and confusing. Very human of you." They sat together on that balcony until dawn, talking about everything and nothing.
their childhoods, their fears, their hopes. For the first time in years, Alex let someone see past the commander, past the diplomat, to the man underneath, and discovered that being vulnerable didn't make him weaker. It made him whole. The final week of negotiations arrived too quickly. Alex and Zaranth had fallen into a new rhythm, professional during official sessions, but stealing moments together whenever possible. The station's crew had noticed, but said nothing, respecting their privacy. "So," Zaranth said as they reviewed the final trade agreement, "we did it. Full cooperation on mining operations, shared technology development, cultural exchange programs. Your superiors should be pleased. As should yours." She set down her tablet and looked at him across the conference table. "And what about you?" she asked. "Are you pleased?" "The agreement is fair and comprehensive." "That's not what I meant." Alex met her gaze. They were alone in the conference room, late evening on the station. In a few days, she'd board a ship back to Calrath. The thought created an ache he'd been trying to ignore. "I don't want you to leave," he said quietly. "I don't want to leave." She came around the table. "But I have obligations, as do you." "So that's it? We just say goodbye?" "We could." She took his hands. "Or we could be creative. There are communication arrays, regular diplomatic exchanges, reasons for me to visit, for you to travel to Calrath." Her thumb traced circles on his palm. "If we want them." "You'd want that?" "Alex, these past few weeks, you've challenged me, frustrated me, made me laugh, made me think." She smiled. "You've reminded me that being vulnerable isn't weakness, that letting someone in doesn't mean losing yourself." She stepped closer. "Why would I walk away from that?" "The distance is nothing compared to the alternative, unless you don't want." He kissed her, cutting off the doubt. This kiss was different from their first, more certain, more claiming. When they parted, both smiling, he said, "I want." "Good." She kissed him again, softer this time. "Then we make it work. Long distance, complicated, probably frustrating." "Sounds like every conversation we've had." She laughed. "Exactly. We're experts at difficult already." They spent that last week creating memories. Dinners in the station's recreation areas, walks through the gardens where they'd first crossed professional lines, quiet evenings in his quarters, just talking. Zaranth continued to tease him, but now the teasing held affection rather than challenge. On her last night, they stood on the observation deck watching ships come and go from the station. "I'll miss this view," she said softly. "The stars? This moment. You and me. The beginning of something I didn't expect to find." Alex wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "It's not ending. Just evolving." "Listen to you, being optimistic." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You've corrupted me completely. Or maybe you've improved me." She turned in his arms to face her. "Promise me something. Anything. Don't go back to being that rigidly controlled commander who hides from feeling things. Stay like this, open, present, even when I'm not here to push you. Only if you promise to stay brave enough to be vulnerable, even when you're back among your people, being the adaptable one." Deal. They sealed the promise with a kiss, long and sweet and tinged with the bittersweetness of temporary parting. The next morning, Alex stood at the docking bay as Zaranth boarded her transport. She paused at the entrance, looked back, and smiled. That same challenging smile from their first meeting, but warmer now, intimate. 6 months, she called out. "The cultural exchange program starts in 6 months. I'll be back." "I'll be here," he promised. "Good, because someone needs to keep you from becoming boring again." As her ship departed, Alex's assistant approached. "Sir, your next assignment, the Virillion delegation, arrives tomorrow." "Right." But he was still watching her ship disappear into the traffic lanes.
His hand went to his pocket, where he'd kept that small white flower she'd given him weeks ago. Preserved now, a reminder. His communicator chimed. A message from Zaranath. Already missing your serious face. Don't forget to smile occasionally, and don't flirt with any other ambassadors. I have a reputation to maintain. Z. Alex smiled despite himself and typed back, no promises on the smiling, definite promises on the rest. A. 6 months. He could survive 6 months. After all, she'd taught him that discipline and control weren't about avoiding feeling things. They were about choosing what was worth feeling and who was worth waiting for. And Zaranath was worth everything. The end.